As men, a lot of times we don't think about it. We're just told to take action. We don't reflect on like, my son just said, fuck you, and slammed the door. Maybe what I said wasn't effective. What do I need to do differently next time? How can I get better? We've got to be willing to understand how we are as men and how our leadership is impacting and affecting our family.
You're a man living in the modern world in a time when men and manhood are not what they once were. You live life on your own terms. You're self-sufficient. You think for yourself and you march to the beat of your own drum. When life knocks you down, you get back up because in your gut, you know that's what men do. You're a badass and a warrior. And on the days when you forget, we are here to remind you who you really are.
Welcome to the Sovereign Man Podcast, where we aim to make men masculine again. I'm your man, Nicky Ballou, and we have a very special guest for you today, Thomas Pfanner of Dads Who Lead. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, man. Really excited to be here.
Good to have you here. So we met through a mutual friend who's actually a client of both of ours, Lance Riggin, and we got to have a initial get acquainted call last week. And I decided to bring you on the show because the work you do is super interesting and I'm very curious about it. Tell me your backstory. How'd you get into do this work with fathers and their kids?
It starts when I was a teacher. I taught middle and high school PE, and that was really the first path that God had me set out on, was to help young men and women become men and women, which I still do. I just do it through coaching their coach now, a little higher frequency. But being in schools, I just saw this huge gap. I saw a lot of my friends who were adults who did everything they were supposed to do in school, and either their relationships were off, their finances were off, and it just the young men specifically in my own walk, I could see they weren't playing with a full deck of cards. And so I was like, hey, I want to do something that shows them some of these other pieces, the pieces around masculinity, around finances, mindset, relationships, these different pieces that school teaches, math, reading, language arts, social studies, science. That's like every day for an hour a day for at least in secondary, like 7 years, you're learning about that, but those aren't the sticking points it's not the target that really matters to men in our lives. And so
they're not day-to-day life skills. They're definitely not.
No. Not
at all.
And so I started a program, and when it initially kicked it off, it was just going to be for the kids. Hey, it was going to be like a kind of a summer camp, like a 1 week type summer camp. And I had a really hard time getting people signed up and interested, especially from going from nothing into something. And so I was like, well, what if I got the dads involved?
Yep.
And I did that, and I changed my marketing, and I was able to make it as a father-son retreat on this rite of passage.
Yep.
And it was, the first year was successful. We had three families that attended, and my son, who was 14 at the time, was a part of it, and things were looking really positive for it. And we're going into our second year. My son had been living with my wife and I for 8 months because his mom moved out of across the state. And it was in January of my son's 8th grade year that I got the call, and he said, Dad, I'm tired of you. I'm tired of being told what to do. I'm moving in with mom across state. Peace out.
Wow.
And so here I had done a whole year of everything, putting together a father-son retreat program for teenage sons and their dads, and my own teenage son walks out of my life.
Crazy, bro.
And so I had to, at that point, really look inward and say, okay, because Charles was gone. He didn't want to talk to me. I wasn't going to talk to his teachers and kind of hey, let's see what we can do to kind of support him through this like I had in the past. There wasn't any counselors for me to talk to. The only person left to change was me. And so I really had to look inward, and I'm like, all right, what am I doing within my leadership that's causing this reaction? what do I need to change so that as this young man is becoming a man and he's going into high school, I'm a leader that he wants to lean into, that he wants to have a relationship with, and that I'm in a position to guide him. And so that summer, I had to really do a lot of work. I hired a coach. I got more into the word and just dialed in on how I could shift my leadership over to bring him back into my life. And so as that happened, and that next year, we got him turned around, because when he left and he went with his mom, and there were a lot of factors that went into his downfall, but wasn't attending school. He was like at a 70% attendance, which anything below 95 is at risk. Because that means like 70% means out of 3 days of school, he's missing one. So that's very high. Like, it's very hard to be successful in that, with that rate. He wasn't in sports. He wasn't working. He was failing all of his classes, which none of those things were happening when he was in Eugene. Again, like a lot of factors that contribute to that, but I knew one factor that was missing was I wasn't involved. So I knew I needed to get back in the game as his father, or there was very likely that I could have a high school dropout, drug addicted kid by the time he got to the Christmas of his freshman year. And so my wife and I and our 2 daughters, we left Eugene where we lived. We left the teaching job. We left the home that we owned, that we bought when it was, a good rate before everything got crazy. We moved across state so that we could go after the lost sheep. And now ended up, Charles is now, we have a great relationship. He's working and living on his own in Nevada. After we moved out there, he and I started training martial arts together, and just getting the focus back on what he needed to do to grow as a man. And so as I've gone through this experience, God's really led me like, all right, I took you through this journey. Now he's told me like he wants me to help other dads who are going through the same struggle with teenagers do it with, with less effort and more clarity.
That's a heck of a story, man. And the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of fathers who struggle with their teenagers. I got 2 sons. One of them's 18, one of them's 20. When my oldest son turned 17, he did something messed up. Him and a bunch of buddies were staying at a house of one of their buddies who was away on vacation. Mm-hmm. They took the mother's car, they banged it up a little bit. And when all that happened, I don't live with his mom either. I just laid down the hammer and had him stay with me. And I was tough on him. The only thing I let him do was play soccer. I took his phone away. And a few months later, he started taking things more seriously. He stopped doing that kind of crap. He ended up becoming the captain of both his school soccer team and his club team. Both teams did really well. The school team won the city championship for the first time this century. Which is pretty cool. Yeah, under his captaincy. And he was about to go to university, college, as you would call it in the U.S., and he got a job working as a fitness coach for the same company that I hired out to get me into shape. He's been with them for just under 2 years, and he works 80, 90 hours a week. He loves it. He's in control. My other son stayed with his mom more than me, but he also works. He's got a little summer business he has doing car detailing. He played 2 sports, hockey and soccer. He's got a girlfriend. Like it could have easily gone the other way if I had not found a way to connect with these boys.
Yeah.
And I see so many men whose relationship with their kids is a shit show. It's just a shit show. So what you're doing to help these men out, I think there's such a massive market for it. But a lot of men are embarrassed to even talk about the fact that things aren't going well with their kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's there are 2 things I feel like as men we overinflate and receive or under like accept help with. I don't know exactly the word I'm looking
Men
for.
don't
Yeah.
they don't like getting help. They don't like asking for help.
No.
They don't like getting help. It is hard on them, man. It takes something for a man to open himself up to help. It's like he feels like
Yeah.
he's a loser if he just asks for help. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's fighting and fatherhood. Those are the things that like seem to define us as men. Like, hey, if you don't have your family figured out, well, then you're not a dude. And if you can't fight, like, oh, I beat you in a fight. Oh, okay. Well, like, how much? What's your strategy? What do you train? What's your tech? Oh, I don't know. Well, what are you gonna do as a dad? Like, what's your plan? Well, I'm just gonna do it. At those two things, it seems like until there's an ego crack, men want to be able to just figure it out on their own and then have that pride of like, yeah, I did it. And the truth is, champions. I cover this in one of the presentations that I do. There's a slide and I put up of all like 6 or 7 different people that you would never know who they were. And I asked the audience like, hey, who are these people? Everybody's like, I don't know. Maybe sometimes somebody knows one. And then like, well, all these guys coach this dude. And then they put up a picture and it's Tom Brady. So Tom Brady's finding he has a throwing coach, he has a strength coach, he has a body coach, a nutritionist, offensive coach, like all these people who've accomplished less than he has, but he's still trying to get better because he doesn't care about his ego of like, oh, hey, I've won the most Super Bowls. I've had the most, he just cares about helping his team perform at the highest level.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what you're talking about, this crack in our ego as men has to be from this space of it's not about showing that I have everything figured out and that I can do it on my own, which maybe you can, but what's more powerful is how can you go farther with what you have, with what's available, with the resources that God's put around you. That's ultimately what drives an athlete to get coaching. And in the same way, in the same breath, we can ask like, hey, is an athlete winning a championship any more important than us raising our young heroes to become men or women?
Actually, it means nothing, man. Athlete winning a championship means something to him. It doesn't mean anything to us.
No.
Like nothing. Who cares?
Yeah.
On the weekend, I have seasons tickets to the Toronto FC soccer club. And on the weekend, Miami FC came to town. Leo Messi is their captain. He's one of the greatest soccer players of all time. And I took my son and a friend. It was awesome, dude. It was a great game. Fantastic game. It was awesome being with my boy.
Yeah. It's those moments that we can find a way to remove ourselves from the regular environment and just go and especially at your kid's age of 18 and 20, where and I told my son this when he turned 18. I said, hey, well, you're 18 now. If you want to take my leadership or not, that's up to you. The last 17 years has been an arranged marriage. But now, if you want my help with something, great. If you don't, great. It's up to you. And so when you're in that phase that you're in, like if you get those that bonus time, overtime, extra time with the kid, like they're going to be more likely to call you up and be like, hey, Dad, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So why don't we go over some principles of what a father ought to do to get a kid who's not communicating with them to communicate with them. I think I'd like you to speak about what to do in the case of a son and then what to do in the case of a daughter.
Sure. It starts the same. And it starts with our faith and our presence as men. So for me, I'm a follower of Jesus. But like these principles that I go over, my book is called Dads Who Lead. So if you're like, oh, this is cool, I want to dig deeper into it. Dads Who Lead on Amazon. The foundation is our faith in ourselves and our faith that God has called us to be our kids' dads on purpose. It's not an accident that he's blessed us with those kids specifically. So in my case, I'm very organized and structured, and I know if I take certain actions, I'm going to get certain results. And so initially when I was parenting Charles, I thought, okay, well, I'm responsible for this person, just like if I was responsible for coaching a team. If I have them do these tasks, they'll get these outcomes and then it'll be successful. So the difference between parenting or leading a teenager and leading a team is that a team, like when I coached for the Oregon Ducks, I was a strength coach, and everybody on the team, whether you were nutrition, running back coach, custodian, didn't matter. Everybody's doing their role to get the players prepared to perform on Saturday at the highest level.
Right on.
So that's a lot of how I had previously addressed fatherhood. I'm here to help move Charles in a direction, but it's the opposite when we're parenting, because we're not moving in the same direction. We're actually teaching and guiding our young heroes to be able to drive in their own direction. We don't want them to be on our ship forever. We want them to be able to lead themselves. And so having that understanding that when I had something that was challenging for me as a dad, that was a planned lesson from God to help develop me into a more evolved, mature leader, the next step. And I have to have faith that I have what it takes to be a strong leader. And I have to have faith in my kids. I have to have faith that if I'm teaching my daughter to hit a softball, that she's got what it takes to do it, that she's going to keep doing it. And this is one of my favorite stories. I have a daughter who just turned 4, and she always asks, like, oh, hey, can I help crack the eggs, put them into the pan?
Nice.
And my first instinct every time, my nervous system is like, whew, this is going to be messy. It's going to be a pain. And I'm like, okay, pause. Yes, you can do that. Come up here, crack an egg. If it messes up, if it sometimes she'll tap it, and she'll tap it so lightly that nothing happens, and then she'll crack it hard and it goes everywhere. But I have to show her that I have faith that she can do it. If I give her 8 eggs, eventually she'll get one and she'll do it. If I'm like, no, Leela, I'm not going to make it. Have you cracked an egg? It's going to be too messy and too much of a pain. Well, what if I just communicated to her about her abilities? It's too much of a hassle for me to teach you, for you to evolve, for you to develop. So we have to have faith that our kids have what it takes. And life is a lot like cracking open eggs. It's just a matter of whether it's a sales call or asking a girl out or whatever it is, you're just going to make some messes for a while until you figure it out. But it's just an evolution of continuing to be willing to fail and try and grow and learn. And so there are 5 different attributes that I talk about in the book, but the foundational one, whether it's with a boy or a girl, is like faith in yourself and faith in who they are.
Right on. So what's the difference between connecting with a girl and a boy, especially if they've decided not to talk to you?
Well, this is kind of going into level 3, but let's do it. Yeah, we can go into level 3, which is mutual respect. I guess I'll just briefly touch on level 2, and level 2 is ownership. So faith is the belief in God, belief in yourself, belief in your kids. Ownership is the action. So that's then like, all right, I believe I'm capable, and I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to work out. I'm going to do the work and understand who I am, do my time with God, take care of what I need to take care of, talk to people the way that I need to talk to them, handle your own ship before you try to direct somebody else's. That's kind of level 2, is taking the action, which typically as men, we're stronger at that than the belief and the feelings part. So those are the first 2. But going into the difference between boys and girls, when we get to the respect level, there are 2 types of respect that I talk about. The first is called action respect, and this is with the most important to the boys. It's a sliding scale, but most important with the boys. And action respect is like, I respect Michael Jordan as a basketball player because he's won 6 championships, he has a great jump shot, he has a shoe deal. All of these things that he's done has nothing to do with me, nothing to do with his interaction with me. I respect him for the presence that he holds and what he's accomplished and his ability to perform. Same can go, like somebody built a house. Cool. I respect that dude. one, he built a house. That's cool. But also I respect his abilities in that domain, that area. So for young men, it used to be 3 decades ago, your dad was like the dude in your life. You knew him, you knew what he did for work, how he got there, his story, all of that. Now with social media, the young men can see all of these dudes' stories, all these influencers, the TikToks, the whatever. They know they know everybody's story. So our story, you're not going to be able to be the Michael Jordan or like be in the NFL, but you can control, do I lift weights? Do I take care of my business? Do I control what I can control? Am I somebody that my son would look at and say like, hey, if I ended up like him when I was 35 or 40 or 45, would that be pretty cool? Would that be all right? And if it's no, gosh, I hope my kids are nothing like me. Well, then we need to create shifts so that you can start embodying the person that you want and that your kids can respect. So that's the action respect. That's what boys are going to latch onto. They're going to tell their friends like, oh, my dad, like for me, I compete in jiu-jitsu tournaments. When I was younger, I competed in cage fighting. So I know my son, when he's hanging out with his friends and they're talking about each other's dads, that's probably some of the stuff that he's bringing. Oh yeah, my dad just did a jiu-jitsu tournament last weekend, as they were watching the fight, and he said this about whatever, so that's like, oh, okay, your dad's cool, or your dad's respected, right? That's really important to the masculine. For the feminine, there's the connection respect. And that is, I use this story. You go to the grocery store. There's a little lady behind the counter, and she greets you, and she knows your name, and she knows your kid's name. She knows everything that's happening in your life. You're going to respect that person because she takes the time to respect and understand your story. And that's something that's really missing in this world where everybody's trying to share and send, to slow down and really dig in. And a lot of times as dads, like if my son or my daughter is telling me something that happened at school and it seems totally unimportant, it's really easy to just kind of check it out. Be like, all right, you were on the playground and this kid came up to you and said, oogie boogie, and then ran off. And then you were sad? What? Like, whatever it is, right? So to them, it's important enough for them to share. And as you start to learn your kids' stories, again, this is for the feminine, of this connection respect of them knowing that we know their story. And for men, it's important too, or for your boys, it's important because if you're going to compete with the influencers and all those folks that have all the, I don't like this word, but it's what's coming up for me, clout, right? The status. You've got to be able to bring something to be able to guide them in a way that's unique. And if you're a great listener, nobody's going to be able to compete with that. You're a great listener and their dad, and you have cool stuff going for you. Very, very hard to compete with. So being a great listener is a super advantageous tool because as you learn their stories, and Melissa from the soccer team did something funny or mean or whatever it was, it might not seem important until you're somewhere and Melissa shows up and you're like, oh, that's the girl from the story. I get it. Now your kid's story becomes like a TV show. Like, I don't watch TV shows anymore, but when I was younger, I watched a show called Friday Night Lights.
Oh, I love that show, man. That's a great show.
Yeah. And so if I was picking up on a different episode, I could, even if I skipped an episode, I could see and understand like, oh yeah, because I remember what happened in relationship between these people. And I know this person's personality. And so I can jump right into a scene with more depth because I understand the backstory of it. Yeah. If you don't understand the backstory, you're just turning on for the first time. That's how a lot of parents roll, is like they just turn on the TV and they're like, all right, what's the problem? Now that there's a problem, let me try to figure it out. But they don't have everything that they maybe need.
They don't have the context. They don't have
the context. Exactly.
Yeah.
So boys and girls, again, both connection and action respect is important to both. Men tend to action, like what you've done tends to be more important. For girls, the connection and the understanding tends to be more important. But I think it's important to fill in both. But knowing that girls are really going to want to be heard and understood that acceptance for just being is more important. And for guys, it's often, you do first and then you're accepted.
Yeah. This is really good. This distinction between the two types of respect is excellent.
Yeah.
It's
A lot
really
like I see respect a lot like love. Like often it's just kind of, oh, give respect, give love. Like, what does that mean? It's such a deep word. I think it's Greek. Greek has like 4 different types of love because there's so many intricacies, and I think respect is the same way.
Yeah, agape, eros, and philos. Yeah. Erotic, friendship, and brotherly love. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's pretty wild. You've created some good IP here, man. I like it. It's unique. It inherently makes a lot of sense. I believe that there's way too many fathers that don't understand this. I've never heard it articulated quite this way before. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Thomas, the world right now is messed up. Many men are out there in society and they don't know how to act. They don't know how to be. They don't know how to be with their wives because traditional masculine roles have been under assault, under attack. So a lot of men instinctively feel that it's correct to be playing out those roles, but society's telling them it's not. Society is telling their women that it's not. It's messing men up. It's messing women up by having them be more masculine. It's causing too many relationships to be under strain and frankly break apart. And the world is moving at a rapid pace. And these digital devices are messing us all up because they're like digital prisons. They're digital overseers.
Yeah.
And fathers just don't realize the most important thing they can do is put that damn thing away for themselves and their kids and actually be with their kids. It's the best thing they can do. And I think the point that you've made here, that you have to have faith and presence, is very powerful. Most people don't understand that. They just don't understand that. But if they spend some time listening to you, they'll start to understand that. And to me, I think someone like you, it's important that you have a book out there. It's important that you have content out there that talks about these issues. It's important that you go on a lot of different podcasts as well and talk about these issues, because most men don't understand this. This is not something that's commonly understood out there in the culture.
Yes.
And it's important for someone like you to become a globally renowned thought leader, because you're going to help save a lot of fathers a ton of heartache, and you're going to help save their children from growing up messed up, because without a father's influence, kids are screwed. A young man needs his father as an example of how to be a man. Learning it from social media ain't on. And a young woman needs her father as an example of the type of man she ought to pair bond with and marry. Because otherwise it's going to mess her up, and then you find these girls, like these OnlyFans girls, that are like sleeping with 1,000 guys on camera for money, which is absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. And the reason for this is because men don't understand what they need to do to be present in their children's lives in a way that is meaningful to those children and will help them be set up for success. And I really appreciate what you're doing, man. This is super important.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's really, it's all, if I'm being honest, it's all from God. And it's just, I really feel like I'm the messenger that he's guided through this. And it's simpler than we often feel like it is. It feels, it's simpler than how it feels. Because as men, a lot of times, like you said, we don't think about it. We're just told to do and take action. And we don't have a lot of chance to reflect on like, oh man, all right, my son just said, fuck you, and slammed the door. Well, that doesn't really matter because I'm his dad and I'm supposed to just do what I'm supposed to do and move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
That's how we're brought up as leaders. Like, well, if somebody gets mad at us, let's just let that roll and on to the next.
No.
Because if we feel bad about it, then it's going to affect us. And so it's just that we're like, oh, okay,
No.
maybe what I said wasn't effective. What do I need to do differently next time? How can I get better? And then just keep getting better and adjusting and growing. But we've got to be willing to understand how we are as men and how our leadership is impacting and affecting our family. So, yeah.
So your book's called Dads Who Lead
Yes.
by Thomas Pfanner on Amazon.
Yes. It's if you look on there, it'll be as Tom Pfanner, but
Tom Pfanner.
I find it, yeah.
Tom
It's the
Pfanner on Amazon.
the ultimate guide to stop parenting and start leading. So in the book, I go through the five levels or the 5 attributes of leadership, which is faith, ownership, respect, groundbreaking adventure. So that's kind of going into some of what you were doing with the soccer and finding activities to do that transfer the values. And then finally at the top is expectations. And how do we hold expectations while still having the base and relationship that we need. So I go into that in depth of each of those 5 levels. And again, it's not from the space that I have everything figured out. It's from the space that as a dad, and it didn't go so well for me. And so if it works for me and it's worked for a lot of families, I try to keep it as simple as possible.
We're going to make sure we put that in the show notes. Like I said, I know someone you've worked with that swears by the work that he's done with you, because without it, he said he wouldn't have a relationship with his daughter or his son. And he's a man that I greatly respect. He's a fellow believer, Lance Riggin. And I know he's not the only one who went through this. I know it for a fact. You know, it's important for a father to be involved in his children's lives. And if for whatever reason those children are not speaking to him or rejecting his love and his fatherhood, he needs to turn that around. And if he can't do it on his own, he needs help. He's got to reach out to someone like you. He's got to read your book. He's got to engage in coaching with you, because otherwise his kids are in deep trouble, deep trouble. Kids can't parent themselves, and they sure as heck can't be parented by influencers on social media or their friends.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing for every father to understand.
Yeah.
Very important.
And it's even deeper than that. You know, we've got our kids' personal journey, but on your own journey as a man, like inherently our role is to not just protect, but prepare our young heroes.
Yes, sir.
And if we're not doing that, it's like if you've put off your oil change and you just keep putting it off, like, Joe, I know. And then, like, oh man, I'm going to go in and it's going to be bad. And then there's going to be another problem because I didn't change the oil. And so like it starts to add up and you put it off until it's a crisis. But in the background, that like, oh, I got to change the oil is always running through everything that we do and operate. Like making sure that who we are as men and who we are as a father, husband, leader is in place. It opens up the love that our wives and our kids have to pour into us so we can refill and overflow as men of God into the world. Because he doesn't want us to be isolated. He wants us to be united.
Amen. Thomas Pfanner, man, honored to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, you bet. And that's what.
Thank you for listening to the Sovereign Man Podcast. If you're ready to take charge of your life and become the man you've always wanted to be, we invite you to join the movement at sovereignman.ca.